Or do I do the west side?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Try something new. This is your last time. You won't be here again after today.
Am I being let go? I was wondering what that pink slip was.
Good evening, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politic on this Friday night and on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Campus preacher Keith in the house.
It's his
Top
last
Knox.
day.
It's his last day.
Yeah,
And,
Pastor Toby comes back.
The water boy.
Pastor Toby called. He wants his job back. He didn't actually. He doesn't want to be here with us.
Let's stop and take a moment to talk about the Fight Laugh Feast Club membership. By joining the Fight Laugh Feast Army, and that is our army, we got thousands now.
Yeah, we do.
It's not
hard
three
to
of you
believe.
like Daniel Spratt and Paul Terrell and the original
The
three, the
OGs.
OG three. All right. Not only will you be aiding in our fight to take down secular and legacy media, and at this point, it's going to be Fox News and Daily Wires coming up on our target here. Man, they're falling apart already.
I'm still going after the young turd.
Jordan Peterson just interviewed Dave Rubin on gay parenting.
There's no such thing as that.
On what? On Daily Wire?
Yeah, on Daily Wire Plus, on their new Plus platform.
I was excited for that too.
I know. It went from like 0 to 60 to like in a day and a half, 24 hours. But you'll also be getting access to content placed in our club portal, such as past shows, all of our conference talks, and exclusive content from our club for our club members that you won't be able to get anywhere else, including backstage shows that we now do on in the club portal. Lastly, you also get discounts for our conferences. Yes, our conference that you probably already signed up for, and if you haven't, you can become a club member. You can get $100 off the conference.
Today's
which
last
is
day
in
with a
October. Keith, you're out of your lane, man.
Right.
So
This
if
is why
you
you're
got
not going to be
$10
here. This is why you're leaving right there.
Case in point, you know that pink slip?
Yeah.
So if you got $10, $25, $50 a month, kick it over our way. You can sign up now at Fight Laugh Feast or FLFnetwork.com. Just click on the shop. You're good to go.
I'm ready for the conference. I was just getting excited about that. I'm ready for the conference. So
I
it's a
absolutely
good reason
am.
to become a club member. What are you doing? You just
Did I
scroll
go
right
past?
past my.
There we go.
What am I
All right, there
doing
you go.
here?
It was weird.
You did it again.
You're not very organized.
What are you doing?
I'm there. I'm right
This
there.
is- Okay, thank you. Gabe, high five.
Here.
Now, what I'm gonna do. Make no mistake about it. The enemies of Christ are actually being put underneath his feet because all he does is win, baby. All he does is, no matter what,
Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
glory. All he does is win. Death, you better look out, baby. You on borrowed time, bro. Just ask Satan. He knows. He's been watching the seed of the woman stomp all over the head of the serpent for centuries. His own head, like a bunch of Bebe's kids. Y'all remember Bebe's kids?
That elephant?
Yeah, babe. We don't die. We multiply. Was that the elephant? No, Bebe's kids, the bad little kid. Okay, I'll tell you about it after this show. And ultimately, he felt that crushing blow at the resurrection of Jesus. Now, in case you've missed it, Satan actually had a press conference post taking a massive L over Roe v. Wade. He spoke a little bit about the impact of this particular loss recently. Take a listen.
The Congress sends to the president now our nation's first major gun safety legislation in 3 decades.
Y'all. That's the wrong clip.
That's the one in Screw Tape Letters.
That's
where it's
that's the wrong devil. I'm talking about the other devil.
As you all know, the team and I suffered a big defeat this week with the overturn of Roe v. Wade. We went out there, we gave it our all with fantastic offensive game, but ultimately the good guys and Justice Roberts came in clutch. Played a better game. So let's take some questions. You there with the teeth.
Satan, it seemed like you had it in the bag with Roe on lockdown for 50 years. What went wrong out there?
Thank you for the question. We got to look on the bright side here. We put up some incredible numbers. Over 60 million PBAs, that's preborn babies aborted for the layperson. It's an absolute world record. I can't take all the credit though. This is a team sport, and you got an incredible team. Got Planned Parenthood, Moloch, Nancy Pelosi. They all made this possible. It didn't go the way that we wanted this time, but in the end, we still have a championship team of demons, devils, and Democrats out there, and there's always next season.
Excuse me, the devil. What are your plans for the Hell franchise
The
going
devil.
forward?
Excellent question. Obviously, this is a rebuilding year for us. We're gonna build back better.
Oh.
And we have some great up-and-coming prospects. We got Kamala Harris.
Oh.
You've heard her demonic cackle. Of course, it's one of the best in the game. It scares even me sometimes. Ooh. You know. Of course, we got all the progressive Christians out there. We got the guy from Green Day. We got Pink now, and of course the Republicans with the weak defensive game. So thanks, Mitt. You know, they let us remain dominant, killing babies for over 50 years. And let's not forget, we still have California and New York in the bag, putting up incredible numbers in the child sacrifice department.
Anything else you can tease for the fans out there?
Well, let's see. Well, while our abortion game will be down for a while, we've got some great stuff lined up. So we're going to be rolling out another Amy Schumer comedy special. Okay. Anyway, I got to make an appearance at a family-friendly drag show in Texas. No more questions, okay? This press conference is over. You know, so many people helped us through the years. Margaret Sanger, Alyssa Milano, shout out to my homegirl, Michelle Obama out there. Thanks for the support. Let's see, Jen Hatmaker, Rachel Hollis, the absolute GOAT, Kermit Gosnell. Pretty much every Hollywood actor. Except for that guy who played Frazier, Joe Biden's handlers, all the Republican congressmen who've gotten their mistresses pregnant, and the latest from my favorite television show of all time, The View.
That is how you win. That is so good.
I want to say thank you, Babylon B, for making that press conference. Wow. Yeah. Well, there's so much I want to say about that, but I'm not going to. In other news, something amazing has happened with some of your favorite companies like Amazon.com, Bank of America, Bumble, BuzzFeed, Citigroup, CNN, Comcast, CVS Health. There's more. Dick's Sporting Good, Estee Lauder, Goldman Sachs Group, Hewlett Packard, IKEA. Don't forget them. JP Morgan and Chase, Kroger, New York Times, Lyft, Match Group, MasterCard, Meta Platforms, that's like Facebook and those guys, Microsoft, Paramount, Patagonia, PayPal, Procter & Gamble, Salesforce, Starbucks, Target, Tesla, Elon. Thank you so much, Elon. Yeah. Uber, Vox Media.
Sure. We got an
Vox. We got an article from Vox. Yeah. Yelp, Zendesk. I don't even know who that is. I don't even, but they're on there. And Zillow. Don't forget, number one groomer of them all, Walt Disney. All these companies are going to be offering financial support to their employees who have cancer. And they're going to be paying for their travel anywhere around the world and treatment because they love life and they love taking.
That's not cancer, bro. They're going to they're going to pay for abortions. Not all cancer.
Those companies?
Yeah, they think the babies are cancer, but it's abortion.
But they would never. That would kill out their workforce. They would never like cut their feet out from underneath them. That'd be stupid.
I don't expect that much logic coming out. Do you? I mean, do you?
All those companies?
I mean, you don't want to pay 3 months leave. Keep that woman working. Yeah, a couple $1,000.
What's a week off? It's just 1 week off versus 3 months off.
Maybe the best way to say that is those companies have now become the head of those households. Is that maybe the better way to say that?
Making them birthing decisions.
They're the ones who's going to be paying for it.
So Biden this past week is not in our country, and he's still saying crazy stuff.
How long is it fair to expect American drivers and drivers around the world to pay that premium for this war?
As long as it takes. So Russia cannot, in fact, defeat Ukraine and move beyond Ukraine. This is a critical position for the world.
Well, that's good to know.
Critical position. He said, first of all, the question, they're all part of the narrative. The media is, Biden is, everyone. They're constantly blaming the war for our high gas prices, which is not true. Our high gas prices started long before the Ukrainian war happened. They're already going up significantly. I think they already had gone up by like 50% by the time the war had started. But if this wasn't very clear in what Biden was getting at, again, he was overseas. He was taking these questions overseas. He later on in this press conference went and criticized SCOTUS overseas. He goes overseas and criticizes the Supreme Court.
He doesn't know where he is, though. That's not his fault.
Man, come on. That's a good point. You just got him off the hook for me. That's a good point.
He doesn't know where
I mean, I got to say this real quick.
Okay,
Everybody, there is some sort of patience I think we do have to have with Biden. Because he's seen that there's something going on.
No, I mean, it's legit. Like, you can't do that to your dad. Like, if you're a Biden child, you're like, you got to pull dad back.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. If you go to your 84-year-old grandpa, or uncle,
he's like 75 or something.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, he's like 74, 75. Yeah.
Either way.
But even so, like, he's doing a lot for that age. He's the president.
I mean,
he's
did
running.
you see him fall off the bike?
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you see some of his friends bought him a motorcycle because he fell off his bike and they wanted to help him?
You know why they did that?
So he wouldn't.
They did that because they can't invoke the 20th.
Harris could be president.
That's right. They can't invoke the 25th Amendment. So they're like, you know what? Let's buy him a motorcycle. This is how you go fast,
79
Joe.
years old. He's 79.
His 79 years old. All right. So his communications, one of his communications representatives later clarified what he was actually trying to get at. Watch this.
Sustainable. What do you say to those families who say, listen, we can't afford to pay $4.85 a gallon for months, if not years. This is just not sustainable.
Well, what you heard from the president today was a clear articulation of the stakes. This is about the future of the liberal world order, and we have to stand firm.
Wow.
So the stakes of the future liberal world order, we have been saying this again and again these last 2 weeks, that the whole point of Biden, what he's trying to do in this economy is he's trying to revolutionize the economy for us.
Yeah.
And he's constantly saying that he's saying it out loud. They aren't even hiding it. He wants to use gas prices to get everybody off gas vehicles. He wants to use gas prices to get everybody on electric cars. He wants to use gas prices. It's a climate economy that he's trying to convert everything into.
I wonder when it's going to come out that they've been for a long time propping Biden up and somebody else has been doing the. I'm wondering when that's going to come out.
There's no way he's making decisions.
Right. No, no, they don't even want him making decisions. He can't stay up on his bike. And that's why a lot of the aides have already left. And they're like, oh, let's just figure. So I'm wondering when it's all going to come out. But, this isn't new. I remember growing up and hearing about NWO, New World Order. Like that's not a thing.
This is a liberal world order. But he's just calling it what it is.
But it is. And to be fair, I think what they're trying to say is they're trying to say we want the rest of the world to maintain a sort of liberal form of democracy like we currently experience. Yeah. That's what they're trying to say. They're kind of having a Freudian slip of the tongue where they're actually telling what they're really going to do.
Yeah.
Is they're trying to have a one world order.
I don't think they're going to slip in the tongue anymore. I think they're now in a position where they can say out loud what they've been thinking for decades.
Because but I think everybody wants something like this though. Because even the question to Biden was saying, how long do Americans have to worry about this? But he's actually saying, because he's asking in the context of the war with Ukraine and Russia. And so he's actually okay, when are you guys going to come in here basically and fix all of this and make it go away so that we can live the comfortable lives that we want? As in to say, like, you guys aren't self-sufficient in how you operate and how you live and how you work. So since you're not, well, when are you guys going to fix the thing with Russia and Ukraine so we can get everything back to normal how it was in the rest of the world before then? So everybody's assuming in one way or another that there is some sort of implications for how these other countries are operating and how we live, right?
Sure, yeah.
So the problem that I have, though, is that we actually serve Jesus, who is King of the world, King of the universe. We should have some sort of implications or thoughts about what it looks like for his reign to be. Yeah. They're thinking about this very well. They're thinking about, okay, how does our politics, whether we give money to countries, the way we bind together with NATO, they're thinking, the world is thinking about this. The politicians are thinking about this. The problem is that they're not thinking about it with us. And we need to make sure that we're thinking about it with them so that we can say, hold on, Jesus Christ has something to say about all of this.
Yep.
Everything that you guys are doing, because he's King of the world. And we're going to hear a little bit more about that from your last day here, Keith Darrell. You better
go out with a bang. Go out with a bang.
It's Friday.
Yeah, more cross politic coming up next.
Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told.
We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
Armored Republic exists to honor Christ the King by providing tools of liberty to free men. New York State just banned body armor. Armored Republic is suing the state of New York in federal court to resist their arrogant war against your God-given rights. Mass shootings are tragic acts of evil that are best resisted by armed citizens and brave watchmen ready to fight back. The main violent threat to human life is not individual criminals, it is tyranny. This is Armored Republic.
Welcome back on this Friday evening, right before America's birthday. Happy birthday, America.
Yeah. Shout out.
July 4th, yeah. Using a smartphone or a computer opens up the door to a host of digital temptations in a world saturated with pornography and other harmful content. What's a Christian to do? We need to take a proactive approach, welcoming transparency into our digital media choices, and Accountable to You makes that easy. Their accountability software shares detailed activity reports from all your devices and your kids' devices, there, and in real time to the accountability partners that you choose. With accountability in place, your family can effectively guard against temptations online and live with purity and integrity. Learn more and try it for free at accountable2you.com. That's accountable, the letter 2, YOU.com/FLF, and as in Fight Laugh East, FFLF. Tell them we sent you.
We ended last week with the Supreme Court overturning Roe and punted the issue back to the states in Dobbs. We went into the weekend and off to church celebrating and thanking Jesus for a small victory in what is not a racial, class, gender, or merely a culture war, but the grand narrative of the conflict between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman, which started when men, male and female, failed to give thanks to their creator and grasp for equality with God in the garden. This is the real backdrop of the culture wars. Henry Van Til defines culture wars as religion externalized. So there's a sense in which a culture war is inescapable, but it's easy to be seduced into thinking this war can be won by protests, memes, owning your opponent, and self-righteousness. Yeah. As Christians, we need to understand that the abortion debate cannot be settled by the courts, the states, or laws. Laws cannot save us. The only way out of a culture of death is resurrection.
That's right.
The sexual revolution is a culture of death. Proverbs 8 tells us, the one who sins against me injures himself. All those who hate me, which is wisdom, love death. That's the sexual revolution. What is the sexual revolution? Dr. Jennifer Morse gives 3 main ideas to the sexual revolution. 1, it separates sex from childbearing. That's contraceptive ideology. Number 2, it separates both sex and childbearing from marriage, the divorce ideology. And number 3, eliminates all distinctions between men and women, except those that individuals explicitly embrace, the gender ideology. These ideas have thoroughly saturated not only our culture, but the church as well, because at root, men and women are not worshiping the living God, but worshiping the world, the flesh, and the devil. This is why some, after rejoicing over the weekend, we came into the week to discover the likes of Joe Scarborough and Al Sharpton attacking this small victory of life as not our church and attacking it as Christian nationalism. As the conflict heats up, we will have an increasing attack on us allegedly from the scriptures and professing members of the church. The attack won't immediately be about Jesus, but it will be under the guise of homophobia, racism, sexism, and now Christian nationalism, especially white Christian nationalism.
It's funny though, but although Joe Scarborough really did say, this is not about Jesus. This has nothing to do with Jesus.
And they're always going to frame it that way. We talked about earlier in the week, it was an attack on the early church, incest, atheism, and I forget what the other one, cannibalism for the Lord's Supper. So it's not going to be about Jesus, because then it's explicitly because we're Christians. It's always got to be a back door. And so what's reasonable as we look at these sorts of things is, what is the way forward? The remedy, I believe, is in some ways pretty simple. We saw this as we commemorated the life of Jim Wilson. Jim Wilson was an evangelist, and he stuck with some of the rather simple things: confess your sins, read the Bible, and share the gospel. As they more and more twist scripture to get it to fit the sexual revolution, we must retain the simple position that Isaiah discovered. This is the one with whom I dwell. He who is poor and contrite and trembles at my word. Christian, do you tremble at his word, or is it something that you wield merely to critique those around you? As we go into this weekend and go into church on Sunday, humble yourself before the Lord and his word, and he will lift you up. He promises. He opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. As that becomes your disposition before God, you will become emboldened before men, and yet humble as well, because you will recognize the need for the gospel. And the Lord has brought you out of a culture of death.
Keith just got through 2,000 words in like 3 minutes.
And he was going slow.
I was trying to pace myself too. I was once preaching, and I had like an 8-page document. I was being critiqued and blah blah blah. And I got done, and the guy was like, "You just went through every word in here. It should have taken about 50 minutes. You did it in like 26." So I'm a fast talker.
Keith, this is your first time spending the week with us. You come in. Do you think about a lot of the politics stuff as much?
I don't. I've run everything through campus preaching. I'll think through politics in a simple, it's a bridge to gather a crowd to start a discussion. So like Roe, I'm reading up on Roe now for the fall, largely just because and if I preach on it, do people gather and get that discussion rolling on it? And then from there, it's all going back to kind of the things I've talked about here. It goes back to creation, gospel, worship, calling people to repentance. And so when you're sitting there, what is Roe about for me? It's about the gospel. You have the seed of the serpent, and all through the Bible, as we've talked about throughout this week, is what was Pharaoh doing? He was crushing the children. What was Herod doing? He was crushing the children. What does the serpent want to do? He wants to crush the children. So when I'm out there preaching, that's my gospel to those who are involved in possibly crushing their children's head and calling them to life, to turn from death. Of course, you're going to kill your child. You've overturned what it means to be a woman. You've overturned that. Everything downstream from that is a fruit of you rejecting your creator and calling them back to their creator through the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ.
I don't know if we had enough time to even talk about some of the wonderful blessings that you've had where people have come back to you from you preaching and saying, man, you just stood up there and proclaimed the gospel of Jesus Christ. I think it's easy for us to see some of the battles that you go through. We're all in politics. We deal a lot in politics, the outworking of culture inside of our legislation. But there's actually a lot, and I got to say, we've had some good times this past couple weeks. It's been really good. We want to have some nice wins. But those aren't all the time, right? But you get a chance to experience a lot of the direct interaction between what's making a lot of this out on the legislative side in the campus. What are some of the stories of success that you've had?
What's interesting to me and kind of the Lord's kindness. So obviously once COVID came, things like I'm a campus preacher, and if campuses are shut down, and then from there the streets are shut down and people are masked, you know what I mean? I was basically unemployed, you know what I mean?
Well, also it's like, he's trying to give me COVID.
That'd be the thing. They would, you don't have a mask on. So, and that's the thing. They want to critique. They'll find anything they can to critique you, because if they can critique you, they'll act like that's a kind of a default against Jesus. We can ignore everything you're saying and we can reject Jesus. And we've discussed this a little bit, but one of the things that's been really fascinating is how many people from 2019 kind of going into COVID have I've heard from over the last 6 to 8 months that are just coming back to me being like, and as we've discussed, it's so basic to me that what they're drawn to is, here's a guy who just stood his ground. And one thing that was really nice, and I'll take this as a street preacher, sometimes you're like, am I a jerk? You know what I mean? Because when you're preaching and you have maybe 100 people,
pretty intense.
It can be pretty intense, and sometimes you're throwing high heat. You know what I mean? You're just kind of throwing at their head a little bit. So for example, a funny story. I think it's kind of funny. I was preaching at San Diego one time, and these girls were topless protesting me, and my body, my choice is what they had, and they kept talking about abortion. And I would tell them, I'm not out here to discuss abortion. I'm out here to preach the gospel to you guys, because if you're not worshiping a God of life, everything downstream is going to be messed up. And it just kept pushing. And finally, I just say to them, I was like, look, the reason I don't discuss abortion that much out here is because if your children are going to turn out like you, just go ahead and kill them now. Just kill them now. And they're just like, what the world? Right. And then they're like, you bleeping Nazi. I was like, but you're the one killing your kids. Right. You know what I mean? So that's where you're willing to throw high heat. And fortunately enough, people there thought it was funny or humorous. But then within that, you're also trying to discover similarly other people who are genuinely pregnant. And your goal is not throwing high heat at their head. It's, how do we share the gospel with someone who's broken, who feels like their whole life is upended? So how do you share the gospel? And what I've been able to see over the years, what's fascinating to me, the scriptures simply say, one man sows, one water, God gives the increase. And I'm often part of either the sowing or the watering, and it's usually genuinely 2, 3, sometimes even 5 years down the road of preaching that I'll hear back from individuals who have discovered the gospel.
I come from an environment where if you're not sharing the gospel, you're probably not a Christian, right? Like I came from that's the environment. Like if you're not out there preaching, if you're not, you're like, how many days has it gone by that you haven't shared the gospel with somebody? So even though I don't hold to that, it's still kind of in me. It's still kind of,
and to an extent, it should be in you. And that's kind of the hard part because you have sins of commission, which everybody recognizes, and sins of omission. And so you can go through your life, and if you shrink back from sharing the gospel, you have the opportunity, and you don't take it. No one knows. Maybe your friend does, but no one knows whether or not
between you and God.
And so.
But the thing that really got me. So even though I came up in that kind of environment, the thing that really got me was the lordship of Christ. And I was like, okay, the lordship of Christ in my life is one thing. I think that people can get very comfortable and satisfied with salvation in one sense. Like the experience of they got it, the hype over, they're excited about it, and then they just go about doing life and they don't ponder it the same way. And that's okay because it matures. You grow and expands more and more, and so your relationship becomes better, deeper, and richer. But when you go back and you think about the reality of Christ and what He's done in the world, and how you talked about it this Wednesday, He's come, He's made the world right again. And you think about that, it gives you a different type of way that you share the gospel with somebody. And so now everything that goes on around me in one way or another, I'm thinking of like, oh man, that person has to hear about how the world has been made right.
And one of the main things I think that we have as Reformed believers that's far richer, not to be disrespectful to the Baptists, but the gospel is not just heaven, hell. You know what I mean? And that's what most people end up, when you think of the hyper evangelist guys who's like, you have to be doing all the time, it's very much, do you want to go to heaven or hell? Are you a good person or a bad person?
Yes.
And then from there, it's just kind of the final eschatological thing, and everything in between is kind of like, we're just kind of on a sinking ship. Whereas if we go back to a doctrine of creation and what were men and women made to do, made to be fruitful and multiply and expand the garden. And when your gospel is us being restored back to being men and women, and not only that, we will be glorified. Right. So we're restored back to there. And so from there, your family matters, expanding the garden matters, and your evangelism becomes far more robust than just, I have to get this tract to somebody. I have to share this gospel because it's about heaven and hell. Now, obviously, I'm not rejecting the doctrine of heaven and hell in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But even if you read through the book of Acts, ask yourself, I guess kind of even two questions. How often do they say, hey, God loves you, has a wonderful plan for your life? Not very often. And how often do they talk about hell? Not very often. They do talk about a coming judgment, and therefore He commands all men everywhere to repent. So we're maintaining that. But what we're doing as Christians is that we're bringing people back into what it means to be men and women. And that's even much of this abortion debate. Everything that's going on is related to creation, and the gospel is putting us right for the here and now, not just in a future state. And once that changes, your gospel kind of changed on how you go about sharing the gospel with people, meeting people, loving people. Everything becomes revolutionized at that point.
It's more robust too, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I always say this. People who you can always tell the people who've gotten their Genesis wrong because of the way they share the gospel. When they share the gospel in a way that's robust, it fits into the cosmology of the world. It has a cosmology with it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they have a different view of Genesis too, right?
Yeah.
You start realizing they understand what Christ was fixing and making things right from Genesis, what we lost it at, right? It always goes into that.
And even one of the things that ends up falling short in some strands of our evangelism and even our apologetic is Genesis 1's just a battleground for Chuck Darwin. We reject Chuck Darwin, and so, we got to maintain Genesis 1. But we haven't really developed a creation theology out of it.
That's right.
And so, I didn't end up doing it. I was supposed to do a little series on critiquing answers in Genesis. I never did it, but it kind of boils down to that strand of thing, where it's just kind of like Genesis 1 is kind of tagged on in the sense of, like, we need to reject Darwinism. So we're creationists in this sense, but we're not creationists in the full, robust dominion mandate and all that entails.
I just noticed you called Charles Chuck.
A little bit,
Y'all close like that?
So
Chucky D.
Yeah,
Chucky D.
Yeah.
Who overturning Roe hurts more, explained in 7 charts. Data shows why taking abortion's rights away is actual structural violence against women. We're going to talk about this article behind the paywall. So if you're not a Fight Laugh Feast Club member, you're going to miss all this information we about to go through. You don't want to miss this. But hey, it's been a lovely week. Pray for Pastor Toby as he's enjoying the rest of the vacation. We hope you guys have a wonderful 4th of July. There will be no
Happy
show
birthday, America.
on Monday, but we'll see you here Tuesday.
That's right.
Happy birthday, America, indeed. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until Tuesday, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
The season of Augustine and the season of Cassiodorus were very different moments in a crucial transformation that occurred in the history of the Western liberal arts. All right, so just stay like this. How am I doing here? So, yeah, you don't like this, huh? What does a Christian education look like when non-Christians are the ones who control the institutions of learning? This is a question that confronted Bishop Augustine of Hippo in North Africa in the 5th century AD. Augustine lived at the twilight of the Roman Empire. He himself had been trained with the best learning that Rome at that time had to offer. He himself actually came through the ranks and taught rhetoric in some of the best schools. And it was then, after he had come of age, that he converted to Christianity, but he wanted to continue the project of education, but this time for Christians. And so he had to confront the question, what does a Christian education look like when the unbelievers control the field? When they control the institutions, when the whole apparatus and curriculum of learning emerged from a pagan environment. And so Augustine wondered, what is it that Christians should jettison? What is it that Christians can embrace? What is it that Christians can adopt but in modified form? These were the questions that Augustine confronted when he sought to educate Christians in an environment when unbelievers dominated the field. A century later, we see a man in the south of Italy named Cassiodorus, who faced a very different educational landscape. He had to ask, what did a Christian education look like in an environment where unbelievers had abandoned the project of education altogether? The infrastructure of learning had entirely eroded. If education was to proceed at all, it had to proceed on the foundation of Christianity. The Christians had to be the ones preserving education. What does a Christian education look like when Christians are the ones forming the institutions, when Christians are the ones organizing the curriculum? Well, these two seasons in the history of education, the season of Augustine and the season of Cassiodorus, just 100 years apart, were very different moments in a crucial transformation that occurred in the history of the Western liberal arts. We're going to be studying this story. We're going to be going back to the sources. We're going to go back to Augustine. We're going to go back to Cassiodorus. We're going to ask ourselves which of their predicaments most resembles our own. Which can we learn from Augustine's period? What can we learn from Cassiodorus's period? As we confront these questions, we're going to engage these sources, and we invite you to join us here at New St. Andrews College.